Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
I'm with Ambassador Ashok Kantha, the director of the Institute of Chinese Studies, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary. It's probably India's oldest think tank devoted to Chinese studies. Ambassador Kantha, welcome to ThePrint. And my first question to you is about Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to India. He's meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Mamallapuram, in Mahabalipuram, in Tamil Nadu. What do you make of it?
You know, it's a very important event because this is the second informal summit between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi. They had the first informal summit at Wuhan in April last year. And they are continuing this process. It's important because, you know, meetings at the level of the two leaders, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi, have played a very important role in development of India-China relations. And I'm told that it's only with India that the Chinese have this kind of arrangement and formal summit at present. So this is an important part of a process which commenced at Wuhan. But it's also happening at a time when there are certain anxieties about the state of India-China relations.
What kind of anxieties are you talking about?
I'm referring to anxieties because the differences between India and China, which had sort of come down a few notches after Wuhan informal summit last year, have resurfaced in recent weeks.
Like what?
Well, most specifically on the issue of Chinese statements and actions with regard to Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh since 5th August.
Since the abrogation of Article 370.
Exactly.
But what are your anxieties? Are you referring to the joint statement between Pakistan and China that was issued a couple of days ago when Imran Khan visited Beijing, where the statement talked about keeping a close look or a close watch or close attention on Jammu and Kashmir? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that's part of the concern we have, but it's more than that. For one thing, you know, ever since Government of India and Parliament of India took certain steps on 5th August, and since then, there have been several Chinese statements, as also actions taken by Chinese government. For instance, you know, convening informed meeting UN Security Council, and most recently, as you mentioned, during
the Imran Khan's visit
to China. They have taken steps which have been unhelpful from India's perspective.
You know, I'm a bit surprised actually that you would use words like unhelpful and negative, because there was a Wuhan summit only last April, which is less than a year and a half ago. So what happened to the Wuhan spirit?
Well, Wuhan spirit is there, but clearly the spirit has been eroded to some extent. You know, Jyoti, what we need to take note of that Wuhan was helpful, no doubt about it. Wuhan helped in imparting a degree of stability in India-China relations at a time when it was passing through a period of stress and strain. It also led to resumption of high-level contacts. Prime Minister Modi and President Xi gave what is referred to as strategic guidance to border guarding forces, which led to stabilization of situation along India-China borders. There were other positive developments that they took in the wake of what is referred to as Wuhan consensus. So I make a positive assessment of the first informal summit at Wuhan. But there are structural problems in India-China relations.
But are you saying that despite Wuhan, the relationship has deteriorated?
Definitely, in recent weeks, relationship has deteriorated. But I'm attributing it not just to what has happened with regard to Jammu and Kashmir, but there's a deeper issue. And the deeper issue is that there are structural challenges in India-China relations, an accumulation of bilateral differences, differences on a range of regional global issues, mutual suspicions about each other's strategic intentions. All these lead to a situation where the relationship runs the risk of going through less than stable trajectory. Ups and downs are not surprising in this relationship.
So, Ambassador Kantha, you are a China hand. You know the Chinese people. You know the leadership. You know that country very well. But you still sound a little despondent. The reason I'm asking this is because this ups and downs that you're talking about, this has been there since independence, perhaps, or soon after independence. So, what is it in 2019 that you seem so disturbed about?
What we need is a greater measure of stability in India-China relations. I have no doubt that China, for us, is a very important neighbor. It's the largest neighbor we have. It's the second largest economy in the world.
Yes.
It's a country with which we would like to see constructive engagement and not a relationship which is characterized by instability.
But you are offering constructive engagement. Are the Chinese reciprocating?
I think on the whole, Chinese would also like to see that relations are maintained by and large on even keel. But on both sides, there are issues which come in the way of our achievement of that objective.
So, what are these new issues? What is that? What are they?
New issues, for instance, concerns the Chinese side about Huawei getting access to 5G telephony in India. Let's just give an example. Though it's not really a new issue, but it has become quite unsustainable trade deficit that we have with China. Even though India-China economic engagement has expanded, we have trade in excess of $90 billion per annum with China, but we can't afford to have trade deficit of the order of $55 billion or so.
But why are the Chinese, after all, if you have to compete in the market, if Indian businessmen have to compete, so the Chinese are saying to you, why don't you come and compete? The rest of the world is in China.
Well, to some extent, that's true that we need to do more to get our share of the Chinese market. China is the largest trading nation in the world. But on Indian side, there are certain valid concerns about inability to get good access to Chinese market for products and services where we are competitive elsewhere.
So the Chinese are doing this deliberately? They're keeping you out deliberately?
I don't want to characterize it as keeping it out deliberately, but more needs to be done. Some steps have been taken in recent past. For instance, it has become easier for us to sell products like non-basmati rice or sugar to China, but that's not enough. I think we need to do more. But if you want to deal with this major problem of trade deficit with China, getting better access to Chinese market is only part of the answer. I think what we need to achieve more investment flows in both directions. We need to see.
But that's not happening.
It's happening to some extent. Actually, in last couple of years, we have received fair amount of investment from China, which is mostly in internet economy and technology areas, though also in some other areas. What we would like to see is greater participation of China in Make in India, China shifting manufacturing capacity to India, rather than looking at India primarily as an export destination.
So what about, so this allows me to ask you, the Huawei 5G that the Chinese are interested in entering into India, do you think that should be allowed?
Well, this is an ongoing debate. I don't think a final decision has been taken about it. There are a whole lot of technical and security issues.
Security as well?
Yes, there are security issues that need to be addressed.
So to come back to the Wuhan consensus, do you think it's broken down?
I will not use the term broken down. That will be strong, a negative characterization. But one has seen some erosion of Wuhan spirit.
And why?
I think answered that question earlier, that there are structural challenges in India-China relations, including accumulation of differences which have resurfaced and which are coming in the way of smooth development of this very important relationship.
So if you were to say three things about these old structural differences, would they be, what would they be?
Well, one will be bilateral differences we have, ranging from boundary question to trade deficit.
Okay.
Two will be, concerns about how to manage our overlapping footprint in the region. There are concerns about China's growing presence in our periphery, both land and maritime, and concerns that China is not being very mindful of India's interests in its immediate neighborhood.
Okay.
And third will be what kind of future of Asia and the world we envisage. There is a strong view that China would like to emerge the preeminent power in Asia Pacific, Indo-Pacific.
But every country would like to do that. India would like to emerge as a preeminent power.
I'm not sure India has any such ambitions at this point of time.
Well, that's
and
yes,
if China would like to emerge as preeminent power, this will not quite be in sync with our,
So you would not be comfortable with that?
India would like to see a more balanced, a multipolar Asia and multipolar world.
But are you especially concerned about this very close relationship, this alliance between China and Pakistan?
Yes, in fact, China-Pakistan strategic relationship is of old standing. As you mentioned, it's not something new.
Right.
But what we are witnessing in recent years and recent months is in a way aggravation of our concerns with regard to Pakistan. And this is manifested in Chinese activities and actions on a whole lot of areas, ranging from China-Pakistan Economic Corridor to Gwadar Port to deepening of defense and security relationship between China and Pakistan, to China taking position on issues like Masood Azhar to Nuclear Suppliers Group, and most recently to Jammu and Kashmir.
So when Prime Minister Modi meets the Chinese president, what would they say to each other?
Well, when Prime Minister Modi meets with President Xi, I expect them to discuss a range of issues, though there is no fixed or rigid agenda, because leaders will decide what they want to discuss. That's the nature of informal summit arrangement. So there will be discussion on bilateral issues, for instance, closer developmental partnership, something which both leaders have talked about. There will be discussion on how to manage border areas in a manner.
They will talk about the border.
I'm sure they will talk about border, and this is one area where both sides agree that maintenance of peace and tranquility along India-China borders is essential prerequisite for continued smooth development relations between two countries.
But do you see President Xi wanting to address those differences?
I think there is some desire on their side also, despite problems which have surfaced. I would like to say that on both sides there is desire to see that on the whole India-China relations move in a positive direction and are also seen to be moving in a positive direction.
So before this election, before Prime Minister Modi came back with such a huge mandate, there was a lot of talk in Chinese circles that they would like Prime Minister Modi to come back, the strong leader syndrome. But then there is this connection with the erosion of the Wuhan spirit. So again, in my mind at least, it seems somewhat contradictory.
I will not say contradictory. What I would like to emphasize that it's a relationship where leaders have played an important role, and that's
so they wanted that continuity.
Yes, that leaders have played an important role. There's a degree of comfort in engagement between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi. They have been meeting quite frequently. In fact, since Wuhan Informal Summit, I believe this will be their 6th meeting.
Right.
And also, the two leaders, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi, have in a sense taken ownership of the relationship, which I saw when I was serving as ambassador in Beijing. I was involved with President Xi's visit to India in September 2014 and Prime Minister Modi's visit to China in May 2015.
Right.
So they are committed to this relationship, and that's a big asset that needs to be leveraged. So on the whole, I would like to say that while differences are real and cannot be wished away, we should not let differences define this relationship. It's very important that while trying to address differences, while seeking to manage differences, we should continue to invest in positive content of the relationship, because that will ensure a degree of stability and positive directions in India-China relations, which is extremely important.
Right. We'll see, of course, how the summit goes in Mahabalipuram, but thank you so much, Ambassador Kantha, for airing the issues, both positive and negative, between India and China. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
This is Jyoti Malhotra for ThePrint. Please continue to watch our YouTube channel. It's live and buzzing.